Here's something most people never hear. We all have a fiduciary. Well, first of all, what's a fiduciary? It's somebody who's obligated to take care of your money as if it were their money and they were in the same situation. It's not a broker. It's not somebody who sells anything for commissions. It's not an accountant typically. A fiduciary is the person making the decisions, and most of the time, ladies and gentlemen, that is you. If you want to make your own financial decisions, if you want to be in control of it all, that is your business. God bless. We will help you where we can. But if you're looking for a fiduciary, that's our business at the Financial Enhancement Group. Call us at 800-928-4001 or go to yourlifeafterwork.com. A fiduciary, somebody who is legally obligated to treat your money as if it were their money and they were in the same situation. That's the Financial Enhancement Group, and we can do it for you. 800-928-4001. Hey, get out of the penalty box. You know, I hate rules, or are they guidelines, or are they suggestions? When I look at most people's financial plans, decisions were actually made by other people, usually Congress. And bottom line is, I really just don't trust them to keep their word most of the time because different people have different opinions and things change. Let's get you out of the financial penalty box. So what do I mean by a penalty box? Rules are important. I get them. I understand we have to have rules so that we can have some lack of chaos, have a little bit more controlled environment. The bigger we get, the more powerful we become. As a country, we have more rules and regulations that we tend to follow. As a business, as the Financial Enhancement Group has grown to having, Donnie and I and a few staff people to now 37 people, we have to have some rules so our team knows what it is they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to show up, those kind of things. I get all of that, but there are rules and then there are guidelines. And what I hate seeing as a financial guy is when people are trapped in their financial planning by other people's penalty box, by other people's numbers. So let's just go to the end. Remember, I will always talk about your financial journey on this show. I think if you draw it out, it will help you understand this and get there. So I always draw a car on a road going from the left, moving toward the right in an upward direction. I presume that you want to have a more prosperous, and that doesn't just mean wealthy, doesn't just mean having more money or more assets, but I assume you want a better future. That's why it goes up from left to right. I think most of us that are listening to this show are aware, whether we're consciously aware or not, that there's a lot of different ways to get to Indianapolis or to Boston or to California or to Florida. Planes, trains, automobiles, great show, or so they tell me. Haven't got to watch it all yet, another story. But there's a lot of different ways to get there, and you get to choose that way. I've seen people become very wealthy with buying real estate. I've seen them become wealthy in the stock market. I've seen them wealthy in running businesses. Most people don't do it from a mixture. They tend to be more concentrated in one area. As a result, they take more risk, and you never hear about the people who didn't make it. Hence the problem with survivorship bias, if you will. Regardless, here we are, and we get these rules that come into play that we have to deal with, without understanding where that journey really is trying to take us. Where is it you're trying to go? So let's just take your life after work. That's one of the segments of the 5 critical elements, right? Just one of them. But you take that one and you look at it and you go, okay, my success at your life after work means that I have to replace my standard of living, or the standard of living to which I've become accustomed. It's not about replacing a certain percentage of my income. It's not about replacing or having a certain amount of money, because remember, your life after work really is about exchanging assets for income. Right? So you have to think in an entirely different metric, but it really is managing and replacing that standard of living. And when people tell me, well, Joe, I only need 70%, it's kind of like, which 30% of life are you prepared to give up? Right? You've heard these things that come from the academic world that talk about what the average American needs when they retire. Here's a news flash for you, ladies and gentlemen. If you're listening to this show, I'll bet you dimes to donuts. I really will. You're not average. My kids are foster parents, and they talk about some of the financial struggles they have, and I'm so encouraged and proud of them for the things that they do in the foster environment. But even they are not average based on median income in terms of what goes on in this world today, even though they still have financial struggles. You ain't average. And when you read the academic research that says you need a certain percentage of your income, it's about the group of large numbers of many people, not you and your spouse or you and your partner. And it's based on people in California and New York, not just Indianapolis and Anderson and Lafayette and Brownsburg and Fishers, not just the people that we take care of. So you're not average. It really is replacing 100% of your standard of living. So I'm 55. That means I've reached a couple magical penalty box numbers where I'm out of the penalty box, but I'm still in a box, right? The first one is I'm over 50, and so you will hear things talked about in the catch-up provision. Catch-up provision allows me to put more money inside of my IRA than somebody who's 49 and younger. It allows me to put more money in my 401k than somebody who's 49 or younger. So in 2022, I can put $27,000 a year inside of the 401k. Now, some of you are listening to that going, Joe, that's a lot of money. I remember when it started and we could save $4,000 or $5,000 a year back in 1980. And then it kind of gradually increased from there. You're right. It was $10,000 was the max for a long period of time, right? Well, where do they come up with these numbers? Who decided your life should be based on 4,000, 10,000, or even 27,000? What does that number have to do with your standard of living? Here's the retirement plan. It's put together by the Department of Labor. The job is what's called a defined contribution plan. That's where you're supposed to put money in so that you can take money out to support your standard of living when you go to retire, not have to rely on the system, not be in the poorhouse, be able to see the quote-unquote golden years. What if $27,000 isn't enough? What if it's too much? Right? Every dollar you save in a defined distribution plan, or a defined contribution plan rather, in a 401k, a 403b, an IRA, every dollar you put into those mechanisms, in fact, any dollar you save anywhere, you're making a decision. Now, it may be unconscious. You may have it automated. I've got mine automated where I know a certain percentage of what comes in automatically goes to investments, savings, and etc. You may have it automated, but at some point in time, you made a decision. You did the heavy lifting, right? You made the decision not to go to Disney and put money in a 401k. You made the decision not to buy the Cadillac, to buy the Oldsmobile. You made the decision to buy a smaller house than a bigger house. You could have done more, and that is pretty accurate with all of you that are listening to the program today. It's other people just like you that we take care of. And you made the decision to delay gratification today by saving so that you would have more life, more opportunities tomorrow. You had to make decisions today that others wouldn't, so you can have choices and options tomorrow that others won't. That's the way we used to teach people when I was a kid in terms of how to save and accumulate money. But it is really a tough decision that you have to make. But you may not need, based on your standard of living, to save $27,000 a year. You may be making a decision to delay gratification today where you already have enough resources that you should be enjoying more of life today. And we're prepared to tell you that. If you're saving more than you need to, based on what your standard of living is and your financial journey, I will tell you, or my team will tell you, you are saving too much money. On the other hand, what if you need to be saving $40,000 or $50,000 a year? Well, you may go, Joe, I don't have $40,000 or $50,000, and the Department of Labor and the IRS says that I can only save $27,000. Well, that's great. They've got you in a penalty box. They are constricting your retirement by decisions that Congress made, and what you have to do is break out of the box. Right? You have to say no to what the IRS says, comply with the rules. This is not me telling you to break the rules, but you're going, okay, if the rule says I can only save $27,000 there, and the Financial Enhancement Group's math says I need to save $13,000 more a year, where should I be saving it? What's the best way to save it? And where do I come up with the resources to save it? What decisions do I have to change today in order to make that happen? And what is the trade-off? Remember, everything's a trade-off. Why you're listening to me talk on this show, you're trading off something else you could be doing, right? It is a trade-off. So I try to make this time as valuable as possible. I hope you're getting it too. And you need to think about that. Every time you make the decision to save, you're making a trade-off. You're trading something you could do today for something you want to be able to do tomorrow, or at least have the option to be able to do it tomorrow. But we've got to pay attention to these penalty boxes where the IRS puts us in a box. And we don't even think about trying to cap out. It's kind of having a lid, and I've hit the lid, and you've heard all of the flea analogies where the flea won't jump higher than where the lid used to be. The frogs and boiling waters, apparently that one's not even accurate. You've heard all these stories. Here's what I want you to understand. I don't want you to have a box that was created by anybody but you. If you're working with a fiduciary like the team at the Financial Enhancement Group, great. Have them help you construct a box, but it needs to be your box. It needs to be able to be flexible. It needs to be able to change as things need to change, as the rules change, as the environment changes. Right? And believe me, the tax code will change. All tax policy, social policy. And a big part of how you get that money out later into the future, so you've had your hard work today and the opportunity to pull it out, a big part of that really comes from what the tax rules are going to be in the future. So you want to give yourself some flexibility, but build that box so that it makes the most sense for you. We have a checklist that says, with the next dollar that I have, where should it go? Should it go to a 401k? Should it be tax deferred or Roth? Does it go to an IRA, tax deferred or Roth? Should I put money in a non-qualified IRA even if I don't get a deduction? Should I be saving in a joint account, a trust account, or an individual name? What is and there's so many things that come into play. It's, I always wondered what Peyton was thinking when he said Omaha. I would have loved to have asked him, which play are we setting up for that, right? Because when I hear the 401k, it seems to me that we're stuck in Omaha with one concept. Peyton didn't have one concept. He had a myriad of plays. You need to have that too. You need to make sure the IRS is not constraining your retirement by giving you rules that you're getting in there. I want you out of the box. I want you to think about all of your options. Maybe you're saving too much. Maybe you're not saving enough. Maybe you're investing it in the wrong direction. There's a lot of questions you probably have. We're ready to answer them at the Financial Enhancement Group. Go to yourlifeafterwork.com. Get signed up for a next steps meeting. We'll give you things to consider today, things you're going to want to consider in the future, and if we choose to partner together, we'll give you things that FEG will do for you, and most importantly, we'll put it into writing. 800-928-4001, yourlifeafterwork.com.